Well, hello, everyone. I know I'm going live a little earlier than normal. I'm just so excited about being here on the Little Black Couch page again. And there was a topic that kind of came up that was discussed yesterday that I thought was pretty interesting, and I've actually I have continued to think about it, honestly, for the rest of the day. So Russell Brunson of ClickFunnels put a post up yesterday discussing, essentially, he went with, the F-bomb, and I guess his opinions on whether we should use it or not in our marketing. And I thought that it was boy, I almost lost my computer. I thought that it was an interesting conversation. I actually did make some comments, but I have some more thoughts about it. I've actually produced content on this topic previously, and so I thought we'd redo it here today from the very safe and comfortable confines of our friend Buddy, and under his watching eye, from the Little Black Couch. So let's get this party started. Cool, welcome back. Thanks for joining me here today. I wanted to first, I know that yesterday we were back. It was so exciting to be back, and we had used the time wisely of being off Facebook and had come up with a new way to present Buddy, the Little Black Couch, in live and in prime time. And we went to like a Hero 4. It was my son's, and thanks, Buddy, for letting me use it. But it was a Hero 4 camera, and we put it on wide angle, and we thought it would be really fun. But I'm going to bring in Buddy right now. It didn't work out. It didn't really work out so well. Buddy felt like he just felt fat. So with the wide angle, and that's, again, I don't want to mess with that. That's everybody's self-image is their own business, and obviously, Buddy looks great. He's got nothing to worry about, but he felt a little, you see that evil little lacrosse ball is what's been helping me with my blown out Achilles. It's a very cruel device, but it's working. It's helping out a ton. So thanks, Buddy. Obviously, we are going to speak a little bit about curse words today. And I actually have published on this little topic before. I did a podcast back on December 21st, 2018, called Cursed for Cursing. Of course, it was on my Data Access Golf podcast, and it was around the premise of, cursing and why it had been part of it. And the interesting part of all of that was I was raised in a family where my father was raised on a farm and he lived in a little town of Alamo, Nevada, where they had to basically live off the land in order to eat and to live and all of that. They just had to work hard. And he worked with a couple, obviously with my grandfather, but also my grandfather's brothers. They had kind of a big ranch situation out there. And so they all worked together, and the language was quite colorful, frankly. And my father has maintained a very colorful style of language throughout his life. So that is how I was raised, in a home like that, and around my grandpa and great uncles. My grandpa, not so much. He wasn't too into the cursing, but my great uncles, for sure, at least a few of them, were quite talented. And then in our home, it was definitely a part of it. My dad worked long hours, which is probably where I get it from, obviously. Not probably, it's definitely where I get it from. where I feel like you have to work long hours to get anything done. We are always taught that it's, you know, you can be smarter than everybody else, but if you can outwork somebody who's smarter than you, then you're going to be more successful. Now, whether that's true or not, I think there's a lot of different situations where that probably isn't true, but that's how we were raised. And I always make kind of the joke, and I've made it for most of my life, that, and you know, until I actually saw my birth certificate, I thought my actual given name was Lazy, S-H-I-T. So there was that growing up, and I, as I grew up, also learned to embrace this idea of cursing, and I did for a number of years, for most of my younger years, my high school years, and then even out, I got a little bit better. I served a church mission, and it's kind of frowned upon to use curse words as a missionary, as you're representing, you know, the church and the teachings of the church and deity, frankly. So, I never got into the swearing. I was just more of the cursing, swearing being words related to deity, and cursing being all the other words, essentially. And I never got into the ones that were related to sexual relations. I stayed away from those, right? I was just kind of the S-H-D, yeah, son of a B, that stuff, right? That's where I hung out. Anyway, and there was not a lot of, my mother would jump on us when we used them, but Dad, you know, when we were out working with Dad, we could use all of those. It was completely fine, and it was in our conversational bailiwick, if you will. So that's how we spoke. Anyway, as I got older, and obviously that I got much better as a missionary. Got to a point where I wouldn't curse at all. It was really, really good there. Got back home, and you know, you just kind of get back into life, and went back to living this way. And then I became a husband, married my beautiful wife, who came in the other day and mentioned that her picture had fallen, and I still haven't gone and got that. So let me see here, folks. There it is. Do me. Yeah, it fell right down behind everything. Sorry about this. It broke. Boy, this is not good. Anyway, my lovely wife, she's in the intro. Remind me to get that photo. It fell off my desk, it's gone down, and it's broken. So I need to fix that. But anyway, I married my lovely wife, and her family, not big cursers. And so that was my first sort of run into somebody that, well, my mother didn't like it either, but that's Mom, right? So, but this is my, you know, this is my babe, right? This is my sweetheart. This is the one I adore, and more so today than ever before. But I was like, ugh, she doesn't like this cursing. I need to sort of tone this down a little bit. And then we had, you know, our first child, who is now 20, but and I was like, you know what? Maybe this isn't the best thing. So I tried to back it up a bit. It wasn't great, but I did do better, and I think that it helped. Unfortunately, I also kind of rubbed off on Carol a little bit, tiny bit, just for a couple times. Pregnancy's hard. So anyway, she's on bed rest the whole time, 9 months, you know, IV, that whole mess, right? Had to sign papers that, you know, save the kid's life, don't save Carol's life, because she couldn't live with the guilt. But anyway, story for another day. So that was the first time where I felt like, okay, you know what, I need to get a handle on this. As a missionary for sure, then I'm back into it, and then I marry this wonderful person. I'm like, okay, it's offending her, that matters. Okay, I need to clean it up a bit. So started to try to. And then we had another experience where my son was in first grade, and they were out on the playground, as first graders do, and they were having a little first grader discussion, and I guess the question came up, hey, do you know the swear words? And they're all kind of like, yeah, I know the D word. And then they're like, well, do you know the H word? And some of them were like, yeah, and some of them didn't. And then one of them said, hey, there's even an S word. And my son said, yeah, I know the S word. And like, you do not, you know, because the rest of them didn't. He's like, yeah, no, I do. I know it. And so they kept kind of prodding him into it and said, oh, just, you know, do you know it? You don't know it. You're lying, whatever. And so they dared him to say it. And so he said it. Anyway, then they all run to the principal, and Canyon gets pulled pulled into the office and I get a phone call, right? And so I'm thinking to myself, my word, what in the world is going on? You know, I've tried to be better, all this kind of stuff at home. Where is he picking this up? And when I was on the phone with the principal, I remember saying, well, you know, I'm sorry, we don't do that at home, but he has a grandfather that's a little loose with the tongue, so that's probably where he picked it up. I'll talk to him. And anyway, we set up an appointment to come in and sit down with a 6-year-old to talk about, not cursing. So we did that. Anyway, we're in the midst of this discussion with the principal, and she asked him where he had picked up this word, where he had heard it. And he sadly said that, my dad was working on the computer the other night. And I was like, oh man, I remember the night so clearly. It was way back in the day, and we had just gotten DSL, which was awesome, right? Because we'd been working off 56K modems forever. Now I had DSL, and and I was like one of the first ones on the block. I've always tried to have the latest technology. I was so excited, and I turned on DSL and it was working. At the time I was working on some schoolwork and doing some different things, and I wanted to turn in a bunch of stuff using my DSL. I didn't want to have to drive all the way to campus to do it. And so I was trying to upload these reports and things, and the DSL just wasn't working. And I reset it, I called customer support, I was doing all this stuff, and I remember hanging up with the technical support guy and yelling that word. And I'm like, oh, darn it, it was me. I was the one that did it. So again, then I'm like, oh, geez, Aaron, you've got to get hold of this thing. And so I tried a little bit more. Swearing became more of a difficult habit to break. I'll say that for sure. It gets kind of in your head. Anyway, so I worked on it. I worked out some more. And unfortunately, then I got back into golf. And I don't know what it is about golf, but there's something about golf that absolutely triggers those sort of responses in your mind. But I wanted to stop it, and I wanted to fix it. And I realized that one day I made a really conscious effort to not curse or not do anything like that on the golf course. And I played really, really well. I mean, I played super well that day. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And so the next day I did it as well. And the more I got control of my swearing, the better I played. Well, at least the more consistently I played. And so I'm like, oh, that's fascinating. So then I got into the research of it all, and actually went in to see how swearing affects the brain and if that could have any sort of impact on my golf game. And that's exactly, that's when I decided, look, swearing kind of probably needs to end and stop for me. I would use it to get my son's attention or tick him off, because he always gets mad when we swear. But I've stopped doing even that. And while he's been gone, it's been zero, and it's no point, right? If he's not here to bother, what's the point? So anyway, so all of that. But when I got into the research and started looking at it, I was fascinated at what I found, and that's essentially what that last podcast was about. That Cursed for Cursing was about how, as when you're playing golf, this idea of cursing, when you let a curse word out, the brain reacts to it in a very interesting way. One, it puts you into what we know as fight or flight, right? It sticks you in a very weird spot as far as that goes. Not the best to play golf from, for sure. Some will say that that's a way to get rid of some anger so you can calm down quickly. Well, it's better just to not, that swearing actually increases the upset, and now you've got to calm down more because it releases a lot of memories tied to that word. So if you hit a bunch of bad golf shots in the past and you yelled that word when you hit them, and then you yell that word again, now you've got all these bad golf shots and bad images in your head, and that's not good for golf. And so that was like, okay, it's over, right? And so I went through and kind of did that podcast and kind of laid it all out. That cursing just isn't good for a lot of reasons, but it's definitely it's not good in life, and it's not good in golf because, and people will say, hey, it's all colloquial, it's all based on what we've learned, it's actually nurture, not, it's nurture, not nature, and I mean, they go into all this stuff about, but the problem is that curse words are stored in a different part of our brain than just our normal language. They're stored as whole words. We've got the left side of our brain that puts the sentences of things together. Well, we found people with damages on their left side of the brain that can swear perfectly fine because they're stored in the right side of the brain. And they just trigger things that we can't help, negative responses that we cannot help. So what does that mean for marketing? It actually means a lot. I had an experience, and I'll say this, Russell mentioned this, that I think it was General Patton that he said, used curse words to motivate the troops and get it all going. And I get why simple-minded people would look at it that way. We're talking about, hey, if you yell and scream obscenities at somebody, you can get them into fight or flight. Well, fight's pretty good, but flight is not good, right? So talking up military men with a bunch of curse words and foul language is a risky motivation tactic, for sure. I mean, which way are they going to go? And it's tied to experiences they had with that word when they were a child. Were they abused as a child? Were they bullied? What's that word going? What's the response going to be? And they can't help it, right? So how are they going to react to that? That is risky business. And especially when you're sending young kids off to presumably their death, this seemed like a very irresponsible way. Now, we didn't know exactly necessarily what curse words did, neurologically speaking, back then, but we do now, right? We have a way to do the digital imaging where we can see what parts of the brain light up when these words are heard. And it really is tied to a lot of memories and emotions and things that we just can't control. So that was dangerous. And there's really good, to motivate human beings, there's a much better way to do it, especially, again, I don't want to get into war, but there's a lot of really wonderful historical references to some of the greatest military minds who did not use foul language and cursing to motivate their people, but they would encourage them with this idea of a better cause, this idea of protecting their family, their freedom, their country, their way of life, their children, and their parents, and motivating them that way, which always proved to be a much more consistent way to motivate people than putting them into fight or flight, right? Where you're giving them two different responses, half of which, half of it is not the way you want your army to go, right? So there's a better way to motivate people, and it's to get to the safety part of it. Can you provide safety for the people that you love, and really use that hierarchy of needs to touch off a lot of the boxes to fire up everybody on the same sort of goal, working together with the same motivations. Now you've got an army that is very hard to conquer mentally, and that's most of the battle, right? So there's a better way to do that. General Patton, I don't know where you are, but you blew it, okay? So thanks for winning, but it could have been done a much healthier way. Now, back to marketing and that side of it. When we're marketing to people, we want to be careful to not trigger in them negative responses, negative memories. We are trying to get them to a place where they trust us, where they believe that our service is going to work for them. And that does not happen easily when you're throwing out a bunch of curse words at them. It makes no sense. It's, I don't know who in the world thinks this is good marketing. Now, there's been some very successful people who curse a lot. There's a lot of comedians who curse a lot. I don't know who they are because I don't listen to them. But there's some people out there that enjoy F-bombs every once in a while. I'm not one of them. I do not like where that word takes me. And I'm for sure not going to buy anything from you if you use that word. There's a couple interesting research. Excuse me. I'm going to have a little beverage. Smooth. Wow, that's smooth. There's some really interesting research on this topic. And it's some that I kind of picked up before. I went through and kind of reread it. But there's some new stuff that I found as well that I think is super interesting. And in one of the research projects that was listed in the New York Times, cites a bunch of different studies that suggested that individuals who consider themselves to be educated and well-adjusted and balanced reacted very negatively towards a person who uses curse words and actually found them to be intellectually inferior. So let me break that down. You've got a good portion, high school graduate versus a college graduate. The college graduate is always going to have more money coming in, right? So depending on how they spend their money, this person's probably going to have more disposable income. And if this person thinks they're educated, and then you curse at them, they're not going to think that you're very smart. And it's very hard to sell them something at all. And I don't know if you've ever been to a car dealership when you've been trying to negotiate for a car and you think to yourself, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And once you get to that point that you're speaking to somebody who it might be their first or second day, it's quite hard for them to convince you to buy anything, right? You just want to get out of there. Additionally, if you're talking to a salesperson who's dropping a bunch of curse words and F-bombs at you, you're not going to buy from them either, right? I mean, they're just going to seem unprofessional and uneducated and not worth spending a lot of time with, frankly. If they can't talk to you as a customer with a degree of respect, then why would you ever buy from them? And that's a whole nother point in all this. I mean, where's the respect? I mean, you're trying to get clients to know you and love you and follow you and trying to become an attractive character. And what kind of respect does that show? Zilch. I don't feel, when somebody curses me, I don't feel respected. My initial reaction to somebody that curses me is, one, I think they're stupid. I don't think that intellectually they're worth speaking to any longer than I need to. Right? Let's get out of there as quick as possible because this is a colossal waste of my time. And then two, there's absolutely, based on whatever I've been in hearing that word, it puts me in a very negative place. I'm not buying anything from you. A really interesting experience when I was at Funnel Hacking Live earlier this year, I think it was in February, and that was the first time I'd ever been there. I didn't know much about Funnel Hacking Live or what went on there. I did know a little bit about ClickFunnels. I had tried to dabble in that a little bit. I do like the platform. I'm a software guy. I like the software. I like a lot of the solutions it provides as an entrepreneur, as a platform for business. But we're sitting in there and we go through some really great, amazing presentations. And I would say I thought everybody was awesome. I really did. I really enjoyed the whole show. I enjoyed everybody's presentation. I enjoyed to see how different people were using funnels and the software to do different things in their own business. It was completely fascinating, wonderfully educational, and it was a great experience. And I had my lovely wife there in Nashville, and it was awesome, right? It was just it was a good trip. And then the last day came. And I will say, Myron Golden, my golf buddy, in fact, yeah. Myron Golden, my golf buddy, we're trying to figure out how to play golf again. I need to get back to him, and I will. I'll do that right after this because I don't want to get in trouble with Myron. So let's just call Myron or text Myron. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so I'll get back to that. But so I had listened to Myron's presentation. He had a few presentations, and Myron is a lovely man, right? I mean, he's just awesome. He doesn't use any curse words. He knows his material. He's motivating. He checks off all the boxes, and yeah, you just want to jump out of your seat and throw your money at him. I mean, because it was just awesome, right? He made you feel great about yourself, about your life, about your future, about your opportunities, you felt like you could go tear the world apart when Myron Golden got done with his presentation. Conversely, there was another gentleman who presented that day. And I don't know him. I had never heard of him. I didn't know what to expect from him. but he took the stage, and then I could tell that something was going on because he made some mention that, Russell Brunson was a Boy Scout or yada yada, and said something like tried to encourage him not to use any curse words. And I'm thinking, well, that's good because curse words are terrible. I'd already done the podcast, right, a few months earlier and had been researching it. So curse words don't work. They're horrible. You shouldn't use them in your marketing. You shouldn't use them at all because there's just, the downside is there is no way to overcome the downside in marketing. It's just completely dumb to use curse word in your marketing material. Stupid. I don't care, Ben Settle, who you think you are. Doesn't matter. The neurological reaction to cursing is so negative that it's very hard to overcome that. You're just making it harder on yourself to sell something, let alone be an attractive character. Good luck. You've offended half of everybody based on the research. So, anyway. And you've now, right, you've taken everybody with, disposable income who thinks they're educated with their college degrees, now thinks that you are dumber than they are. That hurts your chances. And, maybe some of the high school dropouts and the high school grads will give you some money. I don't know. But they got less of it. So what are you doing as a marketer? It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Anyway, this presenter took the stage. And I was going to say gentleman, but I don't know if you can use that kind of language and be a gentleman. Takes the stage and did some weird things. Yelled. At one point, right, it seemed like he was trying to clean up his language. It was kind of like, ha, 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 everybody's laughing. And then he says, F-bomb, it, I guess to Russell, and then goes off on a tirade of F-bombs and foul language. That was like, you know what? I wouldn't buy a bucket of water from this guy if my hair was on fire. I don't care who he is. I don't care what he's accomplished. All of a sudden, he's a irrational, screaming, uneducated person up on stage that I want to turn off and ignore, and frankly wanted to leave. What was the point of being there? I don't know why I stayed. I'll tell you. And if any of my kids had been in the audience, I think I would have gone up and hit him in the mouth. Are you kidding? That's who you are? That's your business? That's your brand? That's how you're presenting yourself? Good on you, dude. I'm not hanging out with you. I'm not hanging out with any of the people that want to hang out with you. I thought that was a disaster. I really did. I put such a negative spin on the whole show for me. Now, I went back and reviewed all my past notes and got back up and said, but that was garbage. That was total garbage time at Funnel Hacking Live. I feel so bad for Russell and everybody else that worked so hard to put that together. And yeah, he tried to do some, I see you, and and some Batman impersonation or whatever. I'm like, whatever, dude, get off the stage. I'm not buying anything from you. You've not convinced me to do anything except not look as stupid as you look right now, ever again. I will never, ever use curse words, period. You've driven it home. This is the worst possible presentation I've ever seen, and I hope to never see it again. And if I ever catch word of his name again, I'm not going anywhere near that place. And I don't care what he puts out. I don't care if it's for free. I don't want any of that garbage near me, ever. No way, no chance. And don't get me started on what he did to that kid. Unbelievable what happened there. And I don't care what he's done after. I mean, you don't kick somebody's teeth in and then offer to buy their braces, right? That's essentially what happened. Oh, mercy. Anyway, the bottom line is this, folks. When you are marketing and we are trying to become attractive characters and we're trying to get our business growing and going, why in the world would you do anything to upset or alienate anybody who has an extra couple bucks in their pocket and who could actually benefit from what we're trying to sell? Why would you alienate the graduates? Why would you bring up negative response mechanisms in kids who have been abused when they were younger and screamed at by I don't know, adults using the language, the same language that's now coming to them in marketing material, that's going to put them in such a fight or flight, unsafe place that they're never going to buy anything from you. And I just can't understand why anybody would do this at all. And again, going back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, look, the very basic one is feeling safe, to have your psychological needs met. And if you're being attacked with curse words that take you back to a very bad place and you're there, you're not going to buy anything. You're going to spend the rest of your webinar, you're going to spend the rest of you're going to spend an entire email campaign and months of YouTube videos to try to get people to trust you again. And it doesn't even matter, the folks that say, hey, swearing doesn't mind me. You don't have a choice, folks. If somebody yelled and screamed at you when you were young, you've already developed that negative response. You can't help it. It's there. Neurologically, it's there. And how we deal with that can change over time, but the initial response that puts you in fight or flight, you can't control. I don't know why comics use it. Other than they're not funny, right? So they're trying to make people uncomfortable. And I guess when you're uncomfortable, you laugh more. I know my wife does. That's one of the things she does. But anyway, in marketing, we want to get to the point where we're selling something that makes people feel safer. Like Subaru, right? Subaru's not going after the folks that are looking for esteem. They're going after the folks that are looking for safety, right? You think of safety in cars, you think Subaru, right? If I want a safe car, I want Subaru, right? And I want a safe car. Driving's dangerous. Perfect, right? But I'm not going to buy it if I'm feeling attacked in fight or flight. I don't want your Subaru. I'm just trying to stay alive, right? So you're never going to hear a bunch of cursing in Subaru commercials because Subaru's trying to get you past, right, feeling safe, the psychological needs, and get you to a place where you know that you need to be safe. So you'll buy one of the really safe cars, okay? The next thing we talk about, love and belonging in the hierarchy of needs, okay? Well, if your psychological needs are being met and you're not being cursed at, and then you come down and you've got where you feel pretty safe, now you've got this sense of love and belonging, right? And that's a whole nother thing that we can sell to. Health products and love, how to love one another better and all of that stuff, right? That's what, right? The health, the wealth, that's where we are, love and belonging. Right? Then we can sell a lot of cool products there. But again, we've got to check off and make sure that they're feeling psychologically okay. And if we're cursing at them, that's gone already. Then they need to be in a place where they're feeling safe, and then we can talk to them about love and belonging, right? Great. And then this last one, esteem. Okay? The next step in Maslow's hierarchy of needs is esteem. Right? What do other people think of me? And yeah, we make some purchases that way. Bentleys and Rolls Royces and fancy new shoes and whatever, right? I heard some guy talking about how good he feels in his retro acid wash jeans on a podcast today. So whatever it takes, right? Now we're talking about esteem. Well, again, if they're swearing at you, they don't feel, they're not having their needs met, and they don't feel safe, and they're not feeling any love or belonging, there's no way you're going to get them to worry about any sort of esteem products. So you can blow all of those up, and the last step is self-actualization, self-actualization. Boy, that's hard for me to say. But that's a very hard thing because you have to accomplish so many things to get there. Some people can do it, but you're literally killing the best ways to market right off the bat if you put them into a place where they are feeling psychologically unsafe, where they're feeling psychologically attacked. Now you've just made your job harder. It doesn't make any sense. I don't want to get into anything other than that. And I think there's always a smarter way to say something without a swear word. And you're going to sound more intelligent if you're not swearing. People are going to think you're more intelligent if you're not swearing. People are going to listen to you more about your products if you're not cursing and swearing. People are actually going to trust you faster if you're not cursing or swearing. And that's just stuff that they don't have control of. None of us have control of. It's just an initial reaction stuff that we've learned over time. And it's there. So anyway, that's my little rant. If you want to market and sell more, curse less. Help people trust you, help people get to know you, help people feel comfortable with you, and they will buy more stuff. Those of you that are out there cursing your little hearts out like crazy to try to impress people and get people to buy your stuff, stop it. It's not working. You could be selling a lot more stuff if you weren't doing that. And then go find a dark closet someplace and swear to your heart's content. But it's hurting your business. And that is not what we need as entrepreneurs. And because when you're cursing, it's putting you into a very negative place. And you cannot be creative in a negative place, which also means that you are not your most effective problem solver, which means you are not going to come up with the solutions that will change the world, which means all of your best business opportunities are never going to come to you as long as you are sending out the foul language. So, there it is. I ranted for how long did we go today? Oh, wow, 36 minutes. That's a long one. Anyway, folks, thanks for joining me today. Please don't curse. It's not worth it. Get out there and market from a very healthy, happy, kind, considerate place, and you will find your sales go up, especially if you have been including that in your marketing. Get it out of there as quick as you possibly can, and it will turn your business around. It will help your business. You will have a much greater impact. You will be able to find more customers, keep more customers longer. You will not have to work as hard to convince people to buy your stuff. It's a no-brainer, big loser, cursing. You cannot curse and be as successful as you possibly could have been. And that is the rock-hard truth of it all. Thank you for joining me today. Until next time, do good by not cursing. And be well. Thanks.